Well, I'm Jason. I'm your host today. We're here at All Things Open. We're here with Tzvika. I think we got that. Please introduce yourself to the All Things Open community.
Sure. So I'm Tzvika Shahaf. I'm Vice President of Product Management at Perforce Software. I oversee developer tools, and a lot of these are tied to open source products and solutions in the market. I also oversee a tool called Puppet, which is coming originally from the open source.
Right.
So that's me.
Great.
Excited to be here today. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Thank you for being here. We're excited for you as well. I want to dive into a couple topics with you. First, I'm curious, what excites you about the intersection of DevSec and Ops?
Yeah, so we're all kind of living now in a reality of digital transformation, and businesses are increasing their digital footprint. It means more infrastructure. It means more kind of implementation in the cloud, more data. And open source is kind of the connecting tissue among all these. If you look at most of the software products in the market today, 50% of what's running there is open source in one way or another.
Right.
So we need to ensure performance, we need to ensure reliability, and security is part of it as well. And when we connect all these pieces together, it's kind of a mindset shift, and organizations are kind of shifting left their the way that they address open source in general, and start to think about it in a DevSecOps approach, and not just as a cool and fun project that we can tech into our infrastructure. Or
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep shifting left. I think part of the security component is a software bill of materials.
Yeah.
Can you, for someone that's not familiar with that, can you tell us what an SBOM is?
Yeah, sure. So first, think about it like a catalog. Think about a list of all third-party components, open source libraries, and any dependencies that you have in your estate, so to speak. And we see with that increasing need for security, and with the growing complexity that we see of digital infrastructure, that a software bill of materials becomes a must. And I'm not talking just from a regulatory standpoint, and all the things that the White House recently kind of expected the stewards of the data to be held accountable for their infrastructure, the data itself, and everything that is running on top of it. Just think about it as an organizer that helps you understand what do you have there and how do you need to address that. When a new vulnerability is introduced or other problems occur, you just know where in your code you need to touch or make changes, to keep the system whole and secured.
Great. Is there anything else you want to touch on why software bill of materials is so important in that?
Yeah. So we all know the famous recent kind of vulnerabilities from Log4j and many others, but think about it this way. Every day there are hundreds, if not thousands, of vulnerabilities that organizations need to be aware of. If you don't keep your tabs open, if you don't know how to manage that and where do you need to patch things properly, that's where risk occurs, and that's where the trust in open source sometimes kind of goes away.
And that's bleeding over into AI, as we were seeing.
Totally.
Well, do you have any tips or best practices for the ATO community? And it doesn't have to be specific about DevSecOps. It could just be, a productivity tip.
Hey, this is Todd with All Things Open. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. We've got a lot of new content coming we think you're going to be interested in. One final favor, be sure to go to allthingsopen.org, allthingsopen.org to see everything that we do. Back to the video.
Yeah, I think it's, my biggest tip would be think about open source as what's your desired state. Like, what do you want things to be like? Design it up front. Make sure that you have clear patch management strategy into that. Make sure that you know how to fix any potential risk, defect, security vulnerability, or any other issue that you have there. How do you protect and keep it, with models of airbag if you're working in a larger organization, making sure that nothing kind of surprises you. It's all about thinking about where am I today, my current state versus the desired state, and plan, I would kind of say reverse engineering in the way that would give you that trust and would allow you also to scale, because things really happen when you start scale things up. So
I like it. That's some great advice. Well, we're going to ask one more. We're here at this large All Things Open conference, and people are going to get a ton of information and knowledge. Do you have any advice on what they do with this after the conference?
Yeah, so, 5,000 people are going to be here this week. Everyone understands that open source becomes top of mind. Again, as I mentioned, 50% of what you run includes open source. So try to break it down by understanding what's your business profile and what's your kind of DevSecOps approach into that. How do you, incorporate open source in your development process? How do you secure it properly? And how do you keep that motion kind of, let's call it repetitive or sustainable, and it's not like a one and done thing, and 2 years from now you wake up one day and ask yourself, like, who did that? So as long as you can implement that in that infinite loop, that's, I think, the key, and I'm sure a lot of people here will take some good advices.
Sounds great. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really
Thanks
appreciate it.
for having me again.
Okay.
Thank you.